Hi Sam, how are you?
Hello. Hey. Okay, is this working?
Yeah, this is
I
working
feel
out.
like
Sorry
such a
about that.
boomer. Okay. No, you're so fine. I have no idea what I'm doing, so thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Hi Sam, do you want to start us off by introducing
Hi.
yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. So, hi, my name is Sam. I'm a first year medical student at Harvard Medical School. I just got back to Boston actually yesterday. So, I'm FaceTiming y'all from my friend's room. But yeah, I'm from Dallas, Texas originally. Spent the last 4 years, I guess, at Duke before coming straight to Harvard in the fall of 2019, and just about to start my second year.
Wow, that's great. So, I know that you're a co-founder of NSRN Health. Do you want to maybe tell us what that organization does?
Yeah, so NSRN stands for National Student Response Network. I guess to start off on how it kind of came to be, um, with COVID-19, as many of us are aware, as students at different levels, lots of students had to go home from their prior or from their main, educational facilities, no longer be on campus, et cetera. And it kind of created two challenges. So one, now we have like a decentralized group of like partially highly skilled individuals that are really passionate about serving their communities, but also two, um, there weren't a lot of very clear opportunities for students to get involved in their communities and help out and be actually effective
Right.
for COVID-19 response. And
Hmm.
that was the gap that Jalen Benson really noticed, who's one of my colleagues at HMS. So he sent around a Google poll that went viral on Med Twitter, if you're familiar with Med Twitter. And now we have over 5,600 responses indicating that a lot of students really felt the same way. So
Hmm.
NSRN came about when myself, Jalen, and Terrence Hughes from Mount Sinai and my other colleague at HMS, Alexis Gutierrez, decided let's start to build an organization around this to create some sort of structure where we can now facilitate student engagement in within their communities in effective, efficient, necessary ways so we can best utilize this group and best utilize our resources that are available. And unfortunately, this had to happen when our government and other like medical structures did not uh, respond as quickly or efficiently as they could have.
Right.
And we've been really impressed with how much these students have shown in terms of dedication and willingness to operate on really short notices in their communities.
Yeah, no, I
It's a
think it's
brief
a
opening.
really unique aspect that you guys touched on. I know that a lot of like healthcare facilities are in dire need of PPE, and I think that, uniting the medical students is a really unique aspect during these times. So amazing. I'm really inspired.
And I guess I should also clarify too. It's been medical, dental. We've had some dental students. We've also had nursing, NP, PA. We've also had BSN programs. It's been really incredible to see like such a variety of students come
Mhm.
together during this time. It's been awesome.
So how does like day-to-day operations look like? So like, how do you connect across the nations or like across the states, something like that? Yeah.
Yeah. So one thing that we were really passionate about was creating like a very centralized, decentralized structure.
Okay.
And what that looks like is we have over 100. I cannot remember what it is at the last. I think it's 103 different members on our leadership team, which is so incredible. And so we have a state coordinator level role where we have onboarded we and our regional coordinators one level above, we've onboarded so many people who are stationed or highly connected personally with
Mhm.
states all around the nation. Those people are responsible for different regions in their state. If there's multiple state coordinators, say for Texas, because it's very big, we have like
Right.
7 state coordinators for that state. They all answer to a regional coordinator, and then regional coordinators kind of answer, quote unquote, to executive board, which is us four. We also
Wow.
have some more peripheral leadership roles, like administrative roles, that have been really helpful. And so on a day-to-day level, it looks very different for each of those structures. But say for a volunteer would a volunteer who sees a task that is available through our task tracker once you sign up. That task has been created by our state coordinators who have received information from our regional coordinators,
Got it.
and us on executive board have more overseeing powers, if you will, just to make sure that things are happening. But we've just been so impressed with our state and regional coordinators at facilitating all this. They are the true nuts and bolts of this organization.
Wow, very cool. So it's like a pyramid basically. So at each level you have different coordinators. Very cool. Very cool.
Yes, essentially. But I mean, again, like they are the ones that are just staying really on top of it. And we are so open to feedback, and our organization has evolved drastically over the 4 months that we've been around. Now we have, we've gone from a couple hundred to now 5,600 active volunteers.
Wow, that's amazing. If you don't mind me asking, how long ago did you start this initiative?
I believe that, so Jalen sent around this Google poll sometime in March. I think we first launched our group in April, technically. So only since April. And we've already actually have some stats that I pulled. So since April, we have completed, we have delivered over 11,000 face shields across the nation, over 5,500 pounds of PPE. It's been really awesome.
Yeah, amazing. I love your impact. I just like the entire impact is almost every state in need. So it's really inspiring, Sam. So I was just wondering, so have there been any eye-opening experiences? And I know that you have. So I'm sorry, what?
Oh, sorry. I think I cut out for a second.
Oh, no problem. So I was just asking you, so have there been any eye-opening experiences during these? So I know that you've delivered, the organization has delivered a lots of amount of PPE to healthcare facilities. So have there been any interesting or eye-opening experiences that you've seen during this?
Ooh, that's a good question. I guess I guess I have a specific example and a more general example. I think more generally, it's been really incredible to see how many students have wanted to get involved and actually perform these tasks. So we've answered, for example, we delivered a couple thousand pound, or a little over, I think, 1,000 pounds of PPE in a 48-hour notice, and students met up in Atlanta, Georgia, and then also at the actual site of delivery, and someone had proctored a plane that they had donated to our organization for this delivery. And so we had a group of students meet up in Atlanta, a group of students meet up somewhere else along the East Coast. One person packed up, or one group packed up the boxes, another group unloaded them. I mean, it's just so that I think has been the most humbling aspect of this. I think more specifically, we've partnered with a lot of organizations, and one of the coolest organizations that we partner with is Tulip Logistics. Tulip Logistics is it's a more technical group. They have not worked really in medical supplies or anything like that at all, but they have started an initiative where they connect PPE donors to recipients, and they used NSRN as the group to implement their new software. So we spearheaded a trial run of this new software that they had by leveraging PPE deliveries. Super cool experience.
Yeah, it sounds cool too. And just how logistics, I think during this pandemic too, lots of different fields are automatically connected towards one cause. It's really inspiring. So yeah.
That's well said. Yeah, and I'm really excited to see how we can start to get pre-meds involved, which I know there's probably lots of pre-meds listening, and that is something that we're really working toward too. Start to branch over there as well.
So yeah, so Sam, I know you're a med student, and you're you're living through the pandemic. So how has it been like? So it's really cool to hear from a perspective of a med student through this pandemic. So I was just wondering about that.
Well, that is a loaded question. It's very, it has been interesting, I think, to say the least. Listening to our deans talk to us on Zoom the day that they told us that essentially you have 48 hours, please get out of your dorm as soon as you can. Just liken this experience to when they were back in medical school and, the AIDS epidemic was starting to unfold, and how there was so much uncertainty during that time there and the impacts on their medical school education. I mean, there was a lot of uncertainty, particularly in the first couple of months, that I think was a little frustrating as a medical student, you know, especially new medical students were all still so excited to like
Yeah.
to learn and to study and to work, and feeling like we couldn't do anything during that time. It was a little frustrating for a lot of people, and thus NSRN was born, for example. Um, However, I think it would be, I think few people would deny that, you know, remote distance learning has not exactly been good for learning overall. Is like the best way I can phrase that.
Right, right.
Certainly my learning has struggled, but we've also been able to, I think, embrace like new learning structures. So you have to learn how to teach yourself. You have to learn how to teach yourself in different environments. You have to adapt, you have to overcome. And I think that that is a broader lesson that's important. I think it's also highlighted though how there's certain like disparities in people's circumstances surrounding their learning. You know, learning disabilities are like often amplified during these kinds of times where you may not be able to go to a library or may not be able to access medication. That has also been, I think, highlighted. So medical education will be very different from here on out. Absolutely.
Right. Wow. Wow, that's really eye-opening for me too, because I never actually, I know that like, I've done distance like learning as well for the past 4 months, but like
Mm,
actually as a med student, which involves a lot of hands-on experience, it's going to be a lot of like a whole new experience once you get back. So yeah.
absolutely. And I will say that is something, so at Harvard, we do an integrated curriculum where we actually see patients our first year. Every Wednesday, we're in the clinic, at least. And Harvard did a very good job, in my opinion, of trying to keep that alive. But we were doing remote cases. We were some of our preceptors were excited to include us in on telehealth visits, which was cool.
Cool.
But we are fortunate that we have been able to interact with patients in the past, and then this is essentially a break in that, and we will return to that very shortly. For students who may not have had that experience yet, I could see how that could be kind of daunting.
Right. Yeah. So Sam, I know that you've done sciences in your undergrad and of course you're a med student. So I know that a lot of our high schoolers are also interested in going into the medical field. So how was that experience like? So what piqued your interest in medical sciences?
Ooh, I just always thought science was interesting. It was very technical, and there weren't a lot of women who were very interested in science. And I don't know that I really understood that in high school as much, in a very conservative high school that I went to. But I thought it was kind of cool to be like one of the only girls who was taking, AP bio, AP whatever,
Wow.
AP physics, and just trying to learn more about STEM. And but I really liked the idea of how medicine could bridge those STEM interests with people and interpersonal interactions, and it was like this tangible application of the science that I really loved. So I think that that bridge kind of piqued my interest that early on. I
Yeah.
actually shadowed before going to undergrad. I shadowed over 100 hours of surgery and different operations because I just really wanted to make sure that was exactly what I was interested in.
Wow, so cool. I never thought of it like as a merging. Like now that you tell me like medical school versus like STEM, and it's a
Mm.
hands-on, like it's a merge almost. I never thought of it that way. So very cool, very cool. And I was just wondering, so now that you're living through this as a med student, what is your prediction? So like, when you do think are the curves gonna flatten out, or how long is this gonna go into? So
That is a great question, and unfortunately, it does not seem like it's easy to find some accurate stats. I don't know what's going on in science right now, but I don't know that I can make a really strong prediction. I don't know that many people can, to be honest. What I can say is we gotta be careful. We gotta be really careful. It's very upsetting to see how quickly people are willing to give up their masks and give up quarantine, because it was so difficult to maintain, and in a lot of ways, people may not have privileges that enable them to remain socially distanced, etc.
right,
But those of us who can should, and I think that if we do not take a very cautious approach into entering the real world once again, that's when we're going to have troubles. That's where our peak is going to get even bigger. That's
right,
where this second wave is going to come way earlier, and then we might have a third. So I think that as long as people who can are taking the precautions that are necessary, we're going to do a lot better.
Yeah, no, I think I completely agree with you. Now that a lot of states are reopening and then closing back again, so it's like chaotic. So yeah, I completely agree with you.
It really is.
Yeah. So Sam, I know that you're not only are you a med student, but you also have a special, I guess, interest in global neurosurgery as well. I'm actually really curious, what exactly is global neurosurgery?
Yeah, absolutely. I think neurosurgery is one of those words that kind of piques everyone's ears because it sounds like this impossible field. But so neurosurgery, right? So we have brain surgery, and global neurosurgery is the idea that we can ensure equitable access to neurosurgical care around the globe. And this is something I'm super passionate about because, for example, my research in undergrad was neurosurgery in Uganda. There's one neurosurgeon in Uganda for every 6 million people in Uganda. Which is just incredibly low compared to something like 1 in 100,000 in the US. It's absolutely unacceptable. And the access is actually lower than 1 in 6 million because not a lot of people can even find a neurosurgeon if needed. So my work thus far has centered around how to increase equitable access to care, how to, I guess, augment equitable outcomes. And that has looked like working on infection control protocols in a neurosurgery ward in Kampala, Uganda. Right now I'm working on pieces to highlight women's roles in neurosurgery around the world. Our group back at Duke, for example, helped train one of the first female neurosurgeons in Uganda, and just highlighting their roles, highlighting their positions, and just encouraging more people to pursue encouraging and supporting more people's pursuits of neurosurgical training. And really also, I guess the last part of this before I will stop, I'm very passionate about this. But I guess like one thing that's really important to me and important for anyone who's considering global health or global surgery, local empowerment is absolutely fundamental to contextually appropriate and locally informed care. Going in from a Western country and providing resources in a way that's not sustainable, for example, causes more harm than good, in my opinion, and in many's opinions. So that's something that I'm really passionate about and something I will carry through whatever field I end up going into.
Wow. Yeah, I think that's really cool because I never thought I knew that in specific countries like African countries, I know that there was a shortage of medical supplies, but shortage with doctors, and especially in the neurosurgery field is I really love how you skew down the need and then go and help out. That's really inspiring, Sam.
Oh, you're so kind. I think that you did touch on something that's really important, is scaling down. Every surgical specialty is different and fills obviously a different need. And so when we approach these globally, we need to keep that in mind. Neurosurgery is something that a lot of people did not view as essential until you think about how road traffic accidents are some of the #1 causes of death in many underdeveloped countries. Like that, neurosurgery is absolutely essential for head trauma and those outcomes. So just bringing different specialties, using whatever experiences you have to bring a specialty to light and to highlight how that can be amplified and adjusted in different contexts is so important.
Wow, yeah. It's really great. I think that's a really good point too, because now that I think about it, it's true. Neurosurgery is actually one of the most important outcomes for, road accidents and all of that. So we really need to appeal to the need as well as it comes. So yeah, I completely agree.
Well said.
Yeah. So Sam, I know that you went through a kind of amazing college process from going to Duke to Harvard. So what would you tell, I'm 16 years old and I'm getting near to the college process.
So young.
So what would you tell your young self? Because I know that we have a lot of youth people watching this there, and you're really inspiring, obviously, through your journey and everything, what you're doing through this. What would you tell your younger self? Anything, just.
Ooh, I guess, okay, I would tell myself three things. First, I would tell myself to just be grateful and to understand the privileges that I had and that were given to me. I think that is something I wish I had really better understood when I was younger. I definitely took for granted and now have much better appreciation for. So that would be number one. Number two would be learn how to write. Writing is that is a very unique skill. It's both a soft skill and a hard skill in different ways. I wish that I would have put more thought and effort into learning how to write earlier on. I think that would have saved me a lot of time in undergrad. And then two, you know, like everything is going to, at the risk of sounding very cliche, like everything will work out in the way that it is going to work out. Just keep your head down and just grind. There are so many times as a woman in a Southern private Christian school, high school, that I was not encouraged and sometimes explicitly discouraged from pursuing medicine or pursuing STEM fields or applying to Duke. I was explicitly told by my advisor not to apply to Duke because it would be too hard for me. And I just wish I wish I could have told myself, you know, it's okay, just keep going. And I did in a lot of ways, but it would have been nice to have someone saying that that was the right thing to do.
Right. Wow. I think I'm going to use those three just because, you know, and I think it's really useful. And I know that a lot of my like high school people, like high school viewers who are watching, they're definitely going to take those three pieces of advice too. So thank you so much, Sam.
Absolutely.
So we're getting to the end. I think a couple of people asked some questions. So I'm just going to ask you.
Awesome.
So one of our viewers said that, what is your take on kids and college students going back to school? So as we open up, yep.
Great question. So that is a hard one to answer because a lot of schools are trying different approaches. Also interesting that, you know, these schools can't seem to work together to share each other's knowledge and come up with the best approach, but it's besides the point. So for example, like Duke is having students come back if they want to and if they're able to, but they're also offering online classes. If students do come back, there's a lot of different protocols and regimens in place that they have to follow, including wearing a mask 24/7 on campus. I think that my take overall is there is absolutely a need for campus housing to be available for students. A lot of students, again, are facing challenges at home or wherever they are during quarantine that make it very, very, very hard to learn. And it's a privilege to be able to learn wherever we are right now. So I think that housing needs to be offered. I also think that extreme safety protocols need to be in place. And I do believe that online options should be offered overall as well. I myself live with an immune condition, an autoimmunity and immune deficiency. So it requires a lot of treatment. And if I had to be back at Duke right now with no one wearing a mask, et cetera, it would be very dangerous. But I don't want to feel, at least I would be appreciative of options to be able to distance myself in a way.
Wow. Okay. Wow. Yeah, no, I think that's a really good thing now that we're also going back to school soon. So I think it's important for us to keep these safety precautions in mind. So yeah. So a couple of, actually most of our questions are basically talking about what inspired you to get into the medical field. So like from like biology to medical science. Yeah.
It's a very good question. I touched on this a little bit also yesterday, and I think the word intersection kind of comes to mind repeatedly, and it's just at the intersection of my interest in science, like I described a little bit before, STEM, and like my passion for serving others and wanting to try to meld the two. That at that intersection is where I found medicine to be most salient. I think that there's so much potential that someone with a medical education can do, in society on a macro and on a micro level and through interpersonal relationships and patient relationships, that is so admirable and just also so dynamic. There's just so many levels and layers to medicine and I've just been very inspired by my peers, I think continually in how different people have conceptualized their potential roles in medicine. To realize that, okay, medicine is not only a field that like caters to my current interests, but is also flexible enough to encourage and empower me to evolve my career in the future. It's very, very dynamic, and I really appreciated that. And then also, kind of referring to what I said earlier, I had the opportunity to shadow surgical procedures really young. That was just so exciting. I was like, this is what I want to do. It's like, there's not a single woman in this room. Like, I want to be that woman. And yeah, just like watching people be so grateful, even if, even if the outcomes were, bleak, or in what my conception at the time would be a bleak, a double below the knee amputation was one thing I saw really young, but seeing the impact that had on their lives and how they were able to work with the doctor to overcome it, I think was a really powerful experience for me.
Wow. That's great. One of our other questions is basically, you talked about how there's a lack of neurosurgeons in Uganda. So would you become one of those neurosurgeons if you had the opportunity to?
Oh, I love this question. I think I also saw one of my friends join this chat who actually went to Uganda with me. And so, yeah, I think she'll appreciate this. But no, I will not. And there's a reason why. And it's not because I don't want to go there. Oh my, that's absolutely not the case. It's more because the local empowerment. I fully believe in local empowerment, and I fully believe that what we need is we need way less people taking positions that don't belong to us, and way more people empowering others to take the positions that belong to them. I will go. I will train. I will train others. I will provide what I can. I will more importantly, I will learn from others. I think that is absolutely essential. I will go back. I will not take the position that doesn't belong to me.
Wow, that's awesome. I didn't, so that's really great. That now that you're just gonna give the impact and then let the local doctors do the work. That's amazing, Sam.
Absolutely.
Yeah. One last question, if we have time. So one of the questions were like, like I told you, a lot of viewers are interested in the medical sciences and going pre-med. So how was your high school courses? Was it diversified into different courses, or was it STEM based?
Oh yes, like what kind of courses did I take?
Yeah.
In high school specifically?
Yeah.
Ooh, I was at a small private school, so I had the opportunity to take APs. I did not have IB offered to me, so I can really only speak to the AP experience. I took wow, I'm like, this was so long ago. No, but I took actually as many APs as I could. Specifically, I took all the non-STEM APs that were offered to me, all the writing ones, all the literary ones, etc. I think because at the time I thought that those would be easy. They were not, but it really, really rounded my education. Looking retrospectively, because at Duke we get very limited opportunities to use our AP credits. It's very restricted, and so instead I think I actually gained skills rather than credit, and that was really, really helpful. So would definitely recommend that. And then I also took every AP science course that was offered to me, because I was able to manage it with time. If that had become a challenge, I think I would have taken a couple less STEM ones, honestly, and just really focused on my non-STEM APs, if that helps.
Wow, that's great. I didn't think it's really great how you use AP courses. A lot of people, including myself, we take AP courses for credits, but
exactly
the experience, which is amazing. So yeah, thank you so much, Sam. I think that concludes most of ours. Oh wait, we have, I think, two more. So how did last question. So
no, go for it. I have time.
One of the question was how's your work? So in terms of global neurosurgery, or even as a med student in your clinics and all that, how has that been affected because of the pandemic?
Yeah, so getting, I guess, a little bit more in detail about how COVID has impacted medical education. Yeah, for me specifically, I'm really passionate about research. Harvard does not pressure us in any way, surprisingly, to get engaged in research, especially during your first year. Later on, they will, but that's just something I'm super passionate about. Fortunately, a lot of my research can be done remotely, So I've been doing a lot of chart reviews. I've been working, completing some papers for publication from my work in Uganda. Also collaborating to just, again, highlight women's roles in neurosurgery. All
Mm-hmm.
that can be done remotely, fortunately. Um, I uh, I will say, like briefly, COVID gives this false sense of time. It makes you feel like, oh, I'm home, like I got lots of time on my hands. I'm going to do all these other things. That
Mm-hmm.
ain't true. Your work day is still your work day,
Mm-hmm.
and I definitely overreach for a part of that, and have had to remember, okay, I'm still a full-time student, and had to really pull back on a lot of these additional engagements that I took on during
Mm-hmm.
this time, and that was definitely a life lesson. So learning how to balance while you are away from your institution is definitely an important skill.
Got it. Wow, this is really good because like even I think it's a good advice just in general for like in terms of time management, but I think it really applies to the situation here. So thank you so much, Sam. I think we all learned so much from you and your inspiring work today. So thank you so much for joining us.
Well, you're very sweet. I mean, thank you for this opportunity. It's been awesome to work with you over the past week. And
Yeah.
yeah, I will send you a blog post soon. And if anyone has any further questions for me, I'm fully available through my Instagram and love to hear from you.
Yes. Thank you so much, Sam. Thank you. Thank you all for coming.
Thanks.